back again on Audible Archives, where we're all about forging legendary stories. I'm Rob, hosting and narrating Runeborn by Raul. In parts 1 through 3, Herman goes from jungle kid to marked fighter, unlocking powers, teaming up against spies, the Conqueror, and creeping cabals. Part 4, chapters 46 to 60, takes him outside the jungle, fresh threats emerge, loyalties get shaken, and his mark explodes with world-altering force. Buckle up for the ride. Chapter 46, The Heart of Runeski. The jungle thickened, roots twisting like serpents, leaves glimmering with morning dew. Herman and Theric moved carefully, staff and anvil in hand, wings flaring, tail flicking molten arcs. Orvik's molten eyes scanned the dense foliage. There is a place, hidden even from the Conqueror, where the jungle holds a secret. Ancient runesmiths left it behind to guide the child of the forbidden. Herman's eyes widened. A secret? What is it? Orvik nodded toward a cliffside obscured by hanging vines. Glowing runes marked the stones faintly. The Heart of Runeski. A place where the flow of force can be shaped and amplified. Only one attuned to the long tail of the mark can unlock its power. The two pressed forward, weaving through roots and vines that responded instinctively to Herman's mark. Wings flared, tail lashing molten arcs, staff and anvil ready. At the cliffside, Herman placed his hand on a carved stone, the red raven phoenix on his bicep flaring as it pulsed. The runes along the cliff ignited, illuminating a hidden chamber. Inside, a crystal pulsed with raw rune magic, the Heart of Runeski, humming with energy that resonated with Herman's mark. Theric stepped close. This artifact is ancient. Its power can amplify your mark, allowing you to bend the flow of force beyond anything you have yet attempted. But beware, the heart tests the mind and the spirit as much as the body. Herman reached for the crystal. Energy surged into him, wings flaring brightly, tail whipping molten arcs in every direction. The pulse of the jungle intensified, roots and vines responding in harmony. He could feel the long tail of his mark stretching, flowing, and intertwining with the heart itself. Orvik's voice rumbled. Use this wisely, child of the forbidden. The Conqueror grows more cunning with every encounter. The Heart of Runeski may give you the edge, but power alone will not defeat him. Herman exhaled, staff and anvil in hand, chest heaving. I can feel it, the flow, the pulse, the strength. The Conqueror won't know what hit him. The jungle hummed, alive and patient. Somewhere beyond the trees, the Conqueror's shadow lingered, plotting his next, deadliest strike. But now, Herman Runeborn, bearer of the Raven Phoenix mark, had a new weapon, the Heart of Runeski. And the storm of battles was far from over. Chapter 47, Heartfire. The jungle vibrated with energy, alive and alert. Herman stood atop a massive root, staff in one hand, the anvil rune glowing in the other, wings on his mark flaring, tail lashing molten arcs. The Heart of Runeski pulsed in resonance with him, the crystal's energy flowing through his veins, amplifying every pulse of the mark. Orvik's molten eyes gleamed. The Conqueror comes, child of the forbidden. Let the heart guide your mark, but remember, control is key. Power without focus can destroy the jungle, yourself, and your destiny. From the tree-line, shadows surged. Soldiers, beasts twisted by dark runes, and illusions flickering like molten smoke. The Conqueror had come, testing Herman's newfound strength. Herman exhaled, closing his eyes, feeling the heart's energy synchronize with the long tail of his mark. Wings flared fully, tail whipping molten arcs. Staff and anvil moved in perfect rhythm, channeling the amplified flow of force into the jungle. Roots erupted from the ground like serpents, coiling around enemies. Vines lashed with lethal precision, leaves spun into whirling blades. Molten arcs of energy spiraled outward, striking soldiers and shadow beasts alike. The heart's energy flowed through him, bending the jungle to his will with unprecedented control. Even the illusions struggled to maintain cohesion against the combined force of mark and heart. Orvik's voice thundered. Yes, feel the flow, Runeborn. The heart amplifies your mark, but let it guide, do not dominate. Harmony will win this day. Herman twisted, slamming the anvil into the ground. A shockwave of energy radiated outward, knocking back shadow warriors and beasts. Staff and hammer moved in perfect coordination, roots, vines, and leaves striking in a synchronized dance. One illusion shattered, revealing a hidden squad of shadow soldiers. Herman adjusted instantly, wings flaring, tail lashing, molten arcs sweeping in a controlled spiral, striking the soldiers before they could react. Chest heaving, wings shimmering, tail flicking, Herman exhaled. The heart of Runeski hummed in resonance, energy flowing through every root, vine, and leaf. The Conqueror's forces faltered, retreating into the shadows, regrouping. Orvik placed a massive hand on Herman's shoulder. The heart has proven its power. But remember, child of the forbidden, the Conqueror will adapt. Each victory is a lesson. Each battle, a test. Herman looked to the horizon, staff and anvil in hand, wings flaring, tail whipping molten arcs. The jungle hummed approval, alive and patient. Herman Runeborn, bearer of the Raven Phoenix mark, had wielded the heart of Runeski. The Conqueror's storm was far from over, but the tide had begun to turn. Chapter 48. The Storm of Shadows. The jungle shivered under a rising wind, leaves rustling violently as if the forest itself sensed the coming tide. Herman stood atop a massive root, staff and anvil rune in hand, wings flaring, tail lashing molten arcs along his arm. The heart of Runeski pulsed in harmony with his mark, amplifying every ounce of his power. Orvik loomed nearby, molten eyes scanning the horizon. "They come," he rumbled. "The Conqueror has gathered all his forces. This is no mere wave. It is a storm designed to break you, to test your mastery of the mark and the heart. Trust your instincts, child of the forbidden." From every edge of the jungle, shadows surged. Shadow warriors, twisted beasts, soldiers wielding dark runes, and illusions flickering like molten smoke. The Conqueror's army moved as one, attacking from multiple directions, forcing Herman to anticipate strikes he could barely see. Herman planted the anvil into the ground. Wings flared, tail whipping, molten arcs of energy spiraled outward, bending roots and vines into defensive and offensive formations. Staff and hammer moved in perfect synchronization, channeling the heart's amplified force into the jungle itself. Roots twisted into barriers, vines lashed in arcs, leaves spun like whirling blades. The jungle itself became a living weapon under Herman's command. Orvik's voice boomed. "Now, Runeborn, do not merely react. Shape the flow. Bend the storm to your will." Herman exhaled, closing his eyes. Energy surged from the heart, flowing through the long tail of his mark. He visualized the battlefield as a single organism, his mark, the anvil, the heart, and the jungle all moving as one. Molten arcs of energy spiraled outward, striking shadow warriors before they could reach him, roots coiling to ensnare shadow beasts, leaves slicing through illusions. Yet the Conqueror's cunning was unmatched. Shadow warriors struck from angles Herman had not anticipated. One twisted illusion forced him to misstep, roots tangling briefly, testing his control. But Herman adapted instantly. Wings flared wider, tail lashing in molten arcs, staff and anvil moving in precise coordination. The heart of Runeski pulsed, energy amplifying every strike, every movement. The jungle responded perfectly to his will, bending the multi-pronged assault into a defensive spiral. Chest heaving, wings shimmering, tail flicking, Herman exhaled. The storm had been partially redirected, not fully defeated, but controlled enough to survive. The Conqueror's forces faltered, regrouping, calculating their next move. Orvik placed a massive hand on Herman's shoulder. "Well done, child of the forbidden. The storm was relentless, but you have proven the strength of the mark and the heart. Yet remember, this is only the beginning. Greater trials await, and the anvil of your fate still waits to test you fully." Herman looked to the horizon, staff and anvil in hand, wings flaring, tail whipping molten arcs. The jungle pulsed, alive and patient, warning that the Conqueror's next strike would be deadlier, more cunning, and designed to test every skill Herman had yet learned. Herman Runeborn, bearer of the Raven Phoenix mark, had survived the storm, but the true battle for destiny had only begun. Chapter 49. The Obsidian Siege. The jungle trembled as if the earth itself feared what was coming. Herman stood with staff and anvil rune in hand, wings flaring, tail lashing molten arcs. The heart of Runeski pulsed violently, amplifying the long tail of his mark. Orvik loomed nearby, molten eyes scanning the horizon, sensing the Conqueror's next terrifying move. From beyond the trees, a dark silhouette emerged, massive and unnatural. It was the Conqueror's latest creation, an Obsidian Siege engine, taller than any tree, covered in jagged runes that pulsed with cursed energy. Shadow warriors poured from its sides, and dark tendrils of magic writhed around it, feeding it power. Orvik's voice rumbled. The Conqueror grows reckless. That monstrosity is fueled by forbidden runes. It will crush the jungle and test the mark as never before. You must bend the heart and the anvil to stop it. Child of the Forbidden. Herman's wings flared wider, tail whipping molten arcs. I can't let it reach the jungle, he shouted, staff and hammer poised. He slammed the anvil into the ground. Energy surged outward, roots and vines twisting into barriers, leaves spinning into deadly whirls. The heart pulsed, amplifying the flow of force. Yet the siege engine advanced relentlessly, shrugging off strikes, tendrils of cursed magic lashing outward, cutting through the jungle defenses. Herman twisted, channeling molten energy from his mark, spiraling it into a controlled wave. The jungle itself became a weapon, roots coiling around the obsidian legs, vines striking like whips, leaves spinning into sharp discs aimed at weak points in the armor. The siege engine responded with magical pulses, energy erupting in shockwaves. Herman staggered, molten arcs lashing uncontrolled, threatening to backfire. Orvik's voice cut through the chaos. Control the flow. The heart amplifies your mark. Let it guide, do not dominate. Herman took a deep breath, focusing. Wings expanded fully, tail whipping in precise arcs, staff and anvil moving in perfect synchronization. He let the heart and the mark flow together, bending the siege engine's magical energy back against itself. Roots erupted through cracks, vines coiled tightly, and molten arcs struck weak points with explosive force. The Obsidian Siege shuddered, cracks spiderwebbing along its surface. Shadow warriors fell back, disoriented by Herman's control of the battlefield. Herman exhaled, chest heaving, wings shimmering, tail flicking molten arcs. The heart hummed, resonating with his mark. The siege engine faltered but had not yet fallen. Orvik placed a massive hand on his shoulder. Well done, child of the Forbidden. You have survived the Conqueror's ultimate test, for now. But he will not stop. Greater darkness comes, and the anvil of your fate draws ever closer. Herman gazed toward the horizon, staff and anvil in hand, wings flaring, tail lashing. The jungle pulsed, alive, warning that the true storm was approaching. Herman Runeborn, bearer of the Raven Phoenix mark, had faced the Obsidian Siege and survived. But the Conqueror's cunning and cruelty were far from spent. Chapter 50. The Heart's Shadow. The jungle's pulse vibrated unnaturally, warning Herman of an unseen tension. Staff in one hand, anvil rune glowing in the other, wings flaring, tail flicking molten arcs, Herman approached the Heart of Runeski. The crystal pulsed violently, resonating with his mark. But something felt wrong. Orvik's molten eyes narrowed. The heart is powerful, child of the Forbidden, but it is not without shadow. Its energy amplifies your mark, but every surge comes with a cost. You must learn its secret, or risk being consumed by it. Herman placed his hand upon the heart. The red raven phoenix on his bicep flared, tail extending further, molten arcs lashing the chamber. Energy surged, flowing into him, but then a jolt struck, sending a painful feedback through his body. He staggered. It burns. Orvik stepped closer, molten eyes blazing. The heart draws on more than the mark. It demands harmony. Force it beyond control, and the flow will turn against you. That is the shadow of its power. Herman clenched his jaw, wings flaring violently, tail lashing molten arcs. He focused, feeling the pulse of the heart align with the long tail of his mark. Slowly, deliberately, he bent the energy around him, learning to guide rather than dominate, to harmonize rather than overwhelm. A vision flared in his mind, the heart, the mark, the jungle, all flowing as one. He saw paths of energy, branching spirals that could redirect the Conqueror's assaults, but only if he moved with patience and precision. Herman exhaled, chest heaving, wings shimmering, tail flicking molten arcs. I understand now. I have to flow with it, not force it. Orvik's voice rumbled approvingly. Good. The heart is more than a weapon, Herman Runeborn. It is a guide, a teacher. Master its shadow, and you may bend even the Conqueror's deadliest storms. The jungle pulsed, alive and patient. Herman's mark glowed brightly, wings flaring, tail lashing molten arcs. The Obsidian Siege, the Conqueror's cunning traps, and the armies beyond the horizon awaited. But now, Herman had learned the heart's secret. The child of the Forbidden, bearer of the Raven Phoenix mark, was ready to face the storm on a new level. Chapter 51. Flow of Fate. The jungle quivered, alive with warning and anticipation. Herman stood on a massive root, staff and anvil rune in hand, wings flaring, tail lashing molten arcs. The heart of Runeski pulsed in rhythm with his mark, resonating perfectly now that he had mastered its shadow. Orvik loomed nearby, molten eyes scanning the horizon. They are coming, Orvik rumbled. The Conqueror knows you have learned the heart's secret. This wave will test your control, your instinct, and your harmony with the mark. Flow, Runeborn, do not fight blindly. From every side, shadows surged, soldiers, twisted beasts, and illusions flickering like molten smoke. The Conqueror's army moved as a single, coordinated entity, striking from multiple angles, testing Herman's mastery. Herman exhaled, closing his eyes. He visualized the battlefield as a living organism, roots, vines, leaves, the heart, the anvil, and the long tail of his mark all moving as one. Wings flared, tail whipping, molten arcs spiraling outward. He slammed the anvil into the jungle floor, sending a pulse of energy through roots and vines. They twisted and coiled, striking shadow warriors with precise force. Leaves spun into whirling blades, cutting through illusions. Molten arcs from his mark surged, bending the Conqueror's assaults into a defensive spiral. One shadow beast lunged unexpectedly, but Herman flowed with the heart. Roots twisted to ensnare it, vines lashed in synchronized arcs, and molten energy struck the beast before it could reach him. Orvik's voice thundered. Excellent. Let the heart guide you. Flow with the battlefield, Runeborn. Bend the storm, do not break it. Herman twisted, spinning staff and hammer in perfect rhythm. A spiral of molten energy expanded, striking soldiers and beasts simultaneously, redirecting illusions into harmless dispersals. Every movement was harmony, not force, mastery, not reaction. Chest heaving, wings shimmering, tail flicking molten arcs, Herman exhaled. The Conqueror's forces faltered, regrouping, disrupted by Herman's unprecedented control. The jungle pulsed, alive and approving. Orvik placed a massive hand on his shoulder. Well done. You have mastered the heart's shadow. But remember, this is only the beginning. The Conqueror adapts. Greater trials await, and the anvil of your fate is closer than ever. Herman gazed toward the horizon, staff and anvil in hand, wings flaring, tail lashing molten arcs. The Conqueror's storm was far from over, but now, the child of the Forbidden, bearer of the Raven Phoenix mark, had turned the tide in his favor. The jungle pulsed, alive and patient, ready to face the next wave. Chapter 52. The Web of Shadows. The jungle trembled, leaves rattling as if whispering warnings. Herman perched atop a massive root, staff in one hand, the anvil rune glowing in the other. Wings flared, tail lashing molten arcs, the heart of Runeski pulsing in perfect harmony with his mark. Orvik loomed nearby, molten eyes scanning every shadow. They know you have mastered the heart, Orvik rumbled. The Conqueror does not attack blindly. This is no ordinary wave. It is a trap designed to test every skill you have gained. From the dense foliage, shadows emerged in sudden bursts, striking from unexpected angles. Soldiers, twisted beasts, and illusions moved with terrifying precision, forcing Herman to react instantly. The jungle itself seemed to shift, manipulated by unseen forces. Herman exhaled, closing his eyes. Wings flared, tail whipping, molten arcs spiraling outward. He slammed the anvil into the jungle floor, sending a pulse of energy through roots and vines. The Heart of Runeski amplified every motion, bending the jungle to his will. Roots twisted into coils that ensnared shadow warriors, vines lashed like whips, leaves spun into whirling blades. Yet the Conqueror's cunning was evident. Illusions blurred the battlefield, luring Herman into overextending his energy. Orvik's voice roared. "Do not be deceived, Runeborn. Flow with the trap. Bend it to your will." Herman twisted, staff and anvil moving in perfect synchronization. He let the heart guide his mark, redirecting the trap's energy back against the attackers. Molten arcs struck illusions, roots coiled around hidden soldiers, and vines lashed in precise arcs to disrupt the Conqueror's plan. A shadow beast lunged from an unexpected angle, but Herman anticipated it. Wings flared, tail lashing molten arcs, the heart and anvil amplifying his movements. He struck in perfect rhythm, redirecting the beast into a tangle of roots and vines. Chest heaving, wings shimmering, tail flicking, Herman exhaled. The Conqueror's trap had been partially unraveled. Shadow warriors fell back, regrouping, disoriented by Herman's mastery of the jungle and the heart. Orvik placed a massive hand on his shoulder. "Well done, child of the forbidden. You have survived the web of shadows. But the Conqueror will not relent. Greater challenges await, and the anvil of your fate draws ever closer." Herman looked toward the horizon, staff and anvil in hand, wings flaring, tail whipping molten arcs. The jungle pulsed, alive and patient. The storm was far from over, and Herman Runeborn, bearer of the Raven Phoenix mark, had only just begun to bend destiny to his will. Chapter 53. Cataclysm Rising. The jungle quaked as a dark wave approached. Herman stood at the edge of a clearing, staff and anvil rune in hand, wings flaring, tail lashing molten arcs. The Heart of Runeski pulsed violently, amplifying the long tail of his mark. Orvik loomed beside him, molten eyes narrowing, sensing the magnitude of the coming assault. "The Conqueror grows desperate," Orvik rumbled. "He will unleash a cataclysm designed to break the jungle, the heart, and your mark. Trust your instincts, Runeborn. Every flow, every strike, every motion will count." From the horizon, dark clouds swirled unnaturally, lightning streaking from shadowed spires. The Conqueror had gathered forbidden magics, channeling them into a devastating, multi-pronged assault. Shadow warriors surged from all sides, beasts twisted by cursed runes struck from above, and waves of energy slammed the jungle with cataclysmic force. Herman exhaled, wings flaring, tail lashing, molten arcs of energy spiraling outward. He slammed the anvil into the jungle floor, sending shockwaves that twisted roots and vines into both shield and weapon. The heart pulsed in perfect harmony, amplifying his mark to unprecedented levels. Roots erupted like serpents, coiling around incoming shadow warriors. Vines struck like whips, deflecting cursed energy blasts. Leaves spun in whirling blades, cutting through the dark storm. Molten arcs of Herman's mark twisted, bending the Conqueror's cataclysmic waves, redirecting them back into the approaching army. Orvik's voice thundered. "Flow with it, Runeborn. Let the heart guide the mark. Do not force, do not resist." Herman twisted, staff and anvil moving in perfect rhythm. The jungle itself became a living weapon under his command. Each strike, each pulse, each motion flowed seamlessly with the heart and his mark, countering the Conqueror's devastating assault. Lightning struck nearby, shattering roots and vines, but Herman adapted instantly. Wings flared, tail lashing molten arcs, molten energy spiraling outward, bending the flow of force around him like a shield and a weapon combined. Shadow warriors faltered, beasts fell into entangled roots, and the Conqueror's waves splintered. Chest heaving, wings shimmering, tail flicking molten arcs, Herman exhaled. The cataclysm had been withstood. not without effort, not without strain, but survived. Orvik placed a massive hand on Herman's shoulder. You have faced the Conqueror's greatest assault yet, child of the Forbidden. But remember, this is only the beginning. The storm grows, and the anvil of your fate approaches. Herman looked to the horizon, staff and anvil in hand, wings flaring, tail whipping molten arcs. The jungle pulsed, alive and patient. Herman Runeborn, bearer of the Raven Phoenix mark, had survived the Cataclysm, but the war for destiny had only just escalated. Chapter 54. The Forge of Echoes. The jungle was eerily silent, as if holding its breath. Herman perched atop a massive root, staff and anvil rune in hand, wings flaring, tail lashing molten arcs. The heart of Runeski pulsed gently, in perfect harmony with his mark. Orvik's molten eyes glimmered with intensity. There is a technique hidden within the old runesmith forges, Orvik said, voice low. Few have mastered it, and fewer still survive its trials. It is called the Forge of Echoes. It can amplify your mark, your anvil, and the heart in ways even the Conqueror cannot anticipate. Herman's eyes widened. Where is it? Orvik pointed to a canyon hidden beneath cascading vines. Buried in the depths of Runeski, within the oldest forge. The echoes of the runesmiths linger there. You must attune to them, or the Conqueror will overwhelm you with his next assault. Herman moved swiftly, wings flaring, tail flicking molten arcs, staff and anvil ready. The jungle seemed to guide him, roots and vines bending slightly to mark the path. At the heart of the forge, Herman saw remnants of ancient runes, glowing faintly with residual energy. Orvik's voice echoed, place your mark upon the anvil of the forge, let the echoes of the past flow through you. Feel the resonance of the runesmith's legacy. Herman approached the ancient anvil, red raven phoenix on his bicep flaring, tail extending further, molten arcs dancing along his arm. He placed his hand upon the cold stone. The heart pulsed violently, amplifying the energy of his mark. Visions flooded his mind, the runesmiths at work, forging weapons imbued with destiny, the flow of magic bending around their hammer strikes, echoes of power lingering in the forge. Herman felt the rhythm, the harmony, the intricate balance between mark, anvil, heart, and the jungle itself. He exhaled, chest heaving, wings shimmering, tail flicking molten arcs. I understand. The flow isn't just power. It's timing, resonance, and harmony. Orvik's molten eyes gleamed. Good. Master this, Herman Runeborn, and the Conqueror will not know how to strike against you. The Forge of Echoes will be your key. The jungle pulsed around him, alive and patient. Herman's mark flared brightly, wings extended fully, tail lashing molten arcs. The child of the Forbidden had discovered a new edge, a secret weapon that even the Conqueror could not anticipate. The storm of battles was far from over, but now Herman had the Forge of Echoes on his side. Chapter 55. Echoes of Power. The jungle quivered as shadows thickened on the horizon. Herman stood atop a massive root, staff and anvil rune in hand, wings flaring, tail lashing molten arcs. The heart of Runeski pulsed in perfect harmony with his mark. Orvik loomed beside him, molten eyes scanning for threats. They are coming, Orvik rumbled. The Conqueror will strike with everything he has. Use the Forge of Echoes, Herman. Flow with it. Let the past guide the present. From the tree-line, dark clouds erupted, carrying the Conqueror's army. Soldiers, twisted beasts, and illusions flickering like molten smoke. Waves of magical energy surged toward the jungle, testing Herman's control. Herman exhaled, closing his eyes. Wings flared fully, tail whipping molten arcs, molten energy spiraling outward. He slammed the anvil into the jungle floor, channeling the Forge of Echoes through roots, vines, and leaves. The jungle responded like a living weapon. Roots twisted into precise coils, ensnaring soldiers. Vines lashed like whips, cutting through beasts. Leaves spun in perfect spirals, deflecting magical attacks. Molten arcs of his mark bent the Conqueror's assaults, redirecting energy with unprecedented precision. Orvik's voice thundered. Yes, flow with the echoes. Bend the battlefield to your will. Herman's mind synchronized with the forge. He visualized the battlefield as a living organism. Every pulse of the heart, every strike of the anvil, every flow of the mark moving in perfect harmony. Molten energy spiraled outward, striking enemies and illusions simultaneously, dismantling the Conqueror's attack wave by wave. Lightning from coast magic slammed nearby, but Herman anticipated it. Wings flared, tail lashing, roots twisted to absorb the impact, vines and leaves striking back with devastating force. Chest heaving, wings shimmering, tail flicking molten arcs, Herman exhaled. The Conqueror's assault faltered, soldiers fell back, illusions dissipated. The Forge of Echoes had amplified his mark, anvil, and heart, turning the tide of battle. Orvik placed a massive hand on Herman's shoulder. Well done, child of the Forbidden. You have mastered the Forge of Echoes. But remember, the Conqueror adapts. Greater darkness approaches, and the anvil of your fate draws ever closer. Herman gazed to the horizon, staff and anvil in hand, wings flaring, tail whipping molten arcs. The jungle pulsed, alive and patient. Herman Runeborn, bearer of the Raven Phoenix mark, had tested the Forge of Echoes, and the Conqueror's storm had been held at bay. The war for destiny had escalated, but Herman had a new edge, one the Conqueror could not yet anticipate. Chapter 56. The Conqueror's Tempest. The jungle shuddered as darkness gathered beyond the tree-line. Herman stood with staff and anvil rune in hand, wings flaring, tail lashing molten arcs. The heart of Runeski pulsed violently, flowing in perfect harmony with his mark. Orvik loomed beside him, molten eyes glowing. The Conqueror grows desperate, Orvik said, voice low and gravelly. He prepares a storm unlike any before. Multi-front assaults, forbidden runes, and beasts twisted by darkness. Every strike will be simultaneous. Every attack, precise. Your mastery of the heart and the Forge of Echoes will be tested like never before. From the horizon, dark clouds churned violently. Shadow warriors surged from multiple directions, enormous twisted beasts tore through the undergrowth, and waves of cursed magic erupted in synchronized volleys. The Conqueror's army moved as a single, terrifying organism, designed to overwhelm Herman's defenses. Herman exhaled, wings flaring fully, tail whipping molten arcs. He slammed the anvil into the jungle floor, sending shockwaves through roots and vines. The heart pulsed, amplifying his mark, bending the flow of force to respond to the simultaneous assaults. Roots erupted like serpents, ensnaring incoming soldiers. Vines lashed with perfect timing, deflecting cursed energy blasts. Leaves spun into whirling blades, cutting through illusions and beasts alike. Molten arcs from Herman's mark twisted in spirals, redirecting multiple magical assaults at once. Orvik's voice thundered. Flow, Runeborn, do not resist. Bend the storm, do not break against it. Herman's mind synchronized with the Forge of Echoes. Every pulse of the heart, every strike of the anvil, and every flow of the mark moved in perfect harmony. Molten energy spiraled outward, striking multiple enemies simultaneously, dismantling the Conqueror's coordinated onslaught. One massive shadow beast lunged from the treetops. Herman anticipated it, wings flaring, tail whipping molten arcs. Roots and vines struck with precision, ensnaring the creature mid-air, while molten arcs and spinning leaves drove the shadow warriors back. Chest heaving, wings shimmering, tail flicking molten arcs, Herman exhaled. The Conqueror's Tempest had been partially contained. Shadow warriors faltered, beasts were ensnared, and illusions shattered. Orvik placed a massive hand on Herman's shoulder. You have survived the Conqueror's Tempest, child of the Forbidden. But mark my words, the final trials are near, and the anvil of your fate will demand everything you have learned. Herman gazed toward the horizon, staff and anvil in hand, wings flaring, tail whipping molten arcs. The jungle pulsed, alive and patient. Herman Runeborn, bearer of the Raven Phoenix mark, had survived the Conqueror's multi-front assault, but the ultimate confrontation was approaching. Chapter 57. The Guardian of Runeski. The jungle lay in tense anticipation, leaves quivering under the weight of unseen forces. Herman perched atop a massive root, staff and anvil rune in hand, wings flaring, tail lashing molten arcs. The heart of Runeski pulsed violently, harmonizing with the long tail of his mark. Orvik's molten eyes glimmered with urgency. "There is one who has waited in the shadows for the child of the forbidden," Orvik rumbled. "A guardian, born of the jungle's ancient magic, attuned to the flows of the heart. Few have ever encountered it, and fewer still survived its tests. But now, it comes willingly." A soft hum resonated through the clearing, growing louder. From the dense foliage emerged a figure, cloaked in flowing vines interwoven with shimmering runes. Its eyes glowed with the same molten energy as the heart, and its presence seemed to bend the jungle itself in subtle, protective waves. Herman's wings flared, tail lashing molten arcs. What are you?" he asked, wary but intrigued. The figure's voice was deep and melodic, like wind rustling through ancient trees. "I am Lysara, guardian of Runeski. I have watched you, Herman Runeborn." The Conqueror's storms grow stronger, and his shadows stretch ever closer. "The jungle has chosen to aid you, but only if you can wield its power in harmony with the heart and the forge of echoes." Herman stepped forward cautiously, staff and anvil ready. "I've learned to flow with the heart. Will you fight with me?" Lysara nodded, vines and runes pulsating around her. "I am bound to the pulse of this jungle. My strength is in its protection, its hidden ways, and in guiding those attuned to destiny. Together, we can bend the Conqueror's assaults and turn the storm back upon him." Orvik's molten voice rumbled approvingly. "The Guardian's arrival marks a turning point, child of the forbidden. But remember, this alliance is fragile, and the Conqueror will strike where you are least prepared. Trust your instincts, your mark, and the heart." Herman exhaled, chest heaving, wings shimmering, tail flicking molten arcs. "Then let's show him what happens when destiny fights back." The jungle pulsed, alive and patient. Herman Runeborn, bearer of the Raven Phoenix mark, now had Lysara, guardian of Runeski, at his side. Together, they would face the Conqueror's coming storm, and the final trials of fate that awaited them. Chapter 58. Harmony of Flames and Vines. The jungle roared with life, every leaf and root alert to the approaching storm. Herman stood alongside Lysara, staff and anvil rune in hand, wings flaring, tail lashing molten arcs. The heart of Runeski pulsed violently, harmonizing perfectly with the long tail of his mark. Orvik loomed behind them, molten eyes scanning for the Conqueror's forces. "They strike as one," Orvik rumbled. "Soldiers, beasts, illusions, every assault will test your unity. Trust the Guardian, Runeborn. Flow with her, and you may turn the tide." From the horizon, a shadow wave erupted. Twisted beasts lunged from above, shadow warriors surged from the tree-line, and cursed magical blasts tore through the undergrowth. The Conqueror's deadliest assault yet was upon them. Herman exhaled, wings flaring, tail whipping molten arcs. He slammed the anvil into the jungle floor, sending shockwaves through roots and vines. The heart pulsed, amplifying his mark, bending the flow of force around the attacking army. Lysara stepped forward, her vines interweaving with Herman's energy. Leaves spun in deadly arcs, roots twisting into precise coils, and runes glimmered along her flowing tendrils. Together, they formed a seamless defense, turning the jungle itself into a living weapon. Orvik's voice thundered. "Flow as one. Let the heart and the jungle guide your strikes." Herman synchronized with Lysara, molten arcs of his mark spiraling through the jungle, intertwining with her vine-bound runes. Shadow warriors faltered, twisted beasts were ensnared mid-leap, and illusions shattered under the combined assault. One massive shadow beast lunged at Herman, but Lysara's vines intercepted it, coiling tightly while Herman's molten arcs struck in perfect rhythm. The beast collapsed into the undergrowth, incapacitated but alive, a warning to the rest. Chest heaving, wings shimmering, tail flicking molten arcs, Herman exhaled. The Conqueror's assault faltered, his forces disoriented by the harmony of flames and vines, heart and guardian in perfect synchrony. Orvik placed a massive hand on Herman's shoulder. "Well done, child of the forbidden. Your bond with Lasara has turned the tide today. But the Conqueror will not relent. The final trials draw near, and the anvil of your fate awaits. Herman gazed toward the horizon, staff and anvil in hand, wings flaring, tail whipping molten arcs. The jungle pulsed, alive and patient. Herman Runeborn, bearer of the Raven Phoenix mark, had tested the synergy of heart and guardian, and the Conqueror's deadliest assault had been held at bay. The ultimate confrontation was approaching, and destiny itself quivered with anticipation. Chapter 59. The Shadow's Apex. The jungle held its breath, every leaf and root alert to the rising storm. Herman stood with staff and anvil rune in hand, wings flaring, tail lashing molten arcs. The heart of Runeski pulsed violently, resonating with the long tail of his mark. Lasara moved beside him, her vine-bound runes intertwining with the jungle's pulse. Orvuk loomed in the shadows, molten eyes glowing like embers. The Conqueror has grown impatient, Orvuk rumbled. He will strike with his ultimate plan. Coast magic, shadow beasts, armies of illusion, all combined in a final assault designed to break the jungle and crush the child of the forbidden. You must be ready, Runeborn. From the horizon, darkness coalesced into a towering storm. Shadow warriors marched with inhuman precision. Twisted beasts, massive and feral, surged forward. Runes of corruption rained from the sky, striking the jungle with deadly accuracy. The Conqueror's ultimate strike had begun. Herman exhaled, wings flaring, tail whipping molten arcs. He slammed the anvil into the ground, sending shockwaves through roots and vines. The heart pulsed, amplifying his mark, bending the flow of force around the incoming assault. Lasara moved in perfect sync, vines lashing like whips, roots twisting to ensnare massive beasts, leaves spinning in lethal spirals. Together, they formed a living shield and weapon, the jungle itself bending to their will. Orvuk's voice thundered. Flow, Runeborn. Trust the heart. Trust the guardian. Bend the storm to your will. Molten arcs spiraled outward, intertwining with Lasara's runes. Shadow warriors fell, beasts collapsed into entangled roots, and illusions shattered under the combined assault. Yet the Conqueror's storm was relentless, pushing them to the limits of endurance. Herman's wings flared wider, tail whipping molten arcs in intricate spirals. The Forge of Echoes resonated through him, the Heart of Runeski amplifying his mark in perfect harmony. Every movement was precise, every strike flowing with the jungle and guardian as one. Lightning of cursed magic struck nearby, ripping through roots and vines, but Herman adapted instantly, redirecting energy with molten arcs and synchronized strikes. The Conqueror's ultimate strike faltered, just slightly, but it was enough. Orvuk placed a massive hand on Herman's shoulder. You have faced the apex of the Conqueror's power, child of the forbidden. But remember, this is not victory. It is preparation. The anvil of your fate is almost here. Herman gazed toward the horizon, staff and anvil in hand, wings flaring, tail lashing molten arcs. The jungle pulsed, alive and patient. Herman Runeborn, bearer of the Raven Phoenix mark, had withstood the Conqueror's ultimate strike. But the final confrontation loomed, and destiny's storm was about to break. Chapter 60. The Anvil of Fate. The jungle trembled, alive and watchful, as if aware that destiny itself had arrived. Herman stood at the center of a massive clearing, staff and anvil rune in hand, wings flaring, tail lashing molten arcs. The Heart of Runeski pulsed violently, harmonizing with the long tail of his mark. Lasara moved beside him, vines and runes intertwining with the jungle's pulse. Orvuk loomed behind them, molten eyes blazing. From the shadows of the horizon emerged the Conqueror, taller and darker than Herman had ever seen. His armor shimmered with corrupted runes, shadow beasts at his side, cursed magic spiraling around him. Every movement radiated power, menace, and the certainty of destruction. This ends here, Runeborn, the Conqueror intoned, his voice a storm. The jungle, the heart, your mark. It all bends to me. You cannot unmake what I have forged. Herman exhaled, wings flaring wider, tail lashing molten arcs. I am not here to unmake what you forged. I am here to bend destiny itself. And today, it answers to me. He slammed the anvil into the jungle floor. Shockwaves erupted, roots and vines twisting into precise coils, leaves spinning into whirling blades. The heart pulsed, molten arcs of energy spiraling outward. Lysara stepped forward, vines intertwining with Herman's energy, amplifying the flow. Shadow warriors lunged, beasts charged, and illusions attacked. But Herman and Lysara moved as one, molten arcs of mark and jungle magic striking in perfect synchronization. Orvik's voice thundered. Flow with the heart. Trust the guardian. Bend the conqueror's storm. Molten energy spiraled outward, striking the conqueror's forces from all angles. The forge of echoes resonated through Herman, the heart amplifying his mark beyond anything the conqueror had faced. Shadow warriors fell, twisted beasts collapsed, illusions shattered. The conqueror unleashed a torrent of cursed magic, a dark cyclone of shadow and flame. Herman twisted, wings flaring, tail whipping molten arcs. The heart pulsed violently, bending the flow, redirecting the conqueror's assault back with amplified force. A final clash erupted, Herman's anvil and staff against the conqueror's corrupted runes. Wings flared, molten arcs spiraled, vines and roots struck with precision. The jungle itself seemed to hold its breath as energy collided, the heart of Runeski resonating with destiny itself. Herman exhaled, chest heaving, wings shimmering, tail flicking molten arcs. With one final surge, the combined power of heart, mark, forge of echoes, Lysara, and the jungles will struck the conqueror. The dark storm shattered, shadows dispersed, and the corrupted magic dissipated into nothingness. Orvik's molten eyes glimmered with approval. The anvil of your fate has been struck, child of the forbidden. You have bent destiny itself. Herman gazed toward the horizon, staff and anvil in hand, wings flaring, tail lashing molten arcs. The jungle pulsed, alive and patient. Herman Runeborn, bearer of the Raven Phoenix mark, had faced the conqueror, survived the ultimate trials, and reshaped destiny with his own hands. The storm had passed. The jungle, the heart, and the mark were at peace, for now. Part 4's in the books. Herman takes on tougher enemies, his mark hits new peaks, and cracks appear in those kingdom chains. As the Cabal gears up and prophecies collide, what's the ultimate challenge ahead? On the edge of your seat, like this, subscribe to Audible Archives and comment, will he save the day or burn it down? Part 5's dropping soon. From Raul's pen, hosted and narrated by Rob. Stay awesome.